Here's a super old dresser in really bad shape that I have grand plans for using this IOD paint inlay. First, I check it out. There's splits all over the top. The drawers are going in and out pretty easily, but they're kind of in bad shape. Not really falling apart, but they just need tightened up. And the insides are not quite meeting up to the front, yet they're not falling apart. It's really kind of weird. Oh, the drawer stops are in there. So for the most part, they're operating okay-ish. There's a lot of missing veneer, and the top is just full of deep splits. They are wide open splits. Originally, I thought I was going to be able to glue and clamp this, but there's no way. Um, it's just out of control, and a lot of people, I'm just going to give you a little disclaimer here, a lot of people would take this apart and totally do a new top. Well, guess what? This girl's not going to, and I'm going to take you through my fix and see where we go with this thing. So I am gluing down all the places that I can using just regular wood glue, and I also use a syringe in some places and put some weight on it. I'm just trying to get everything that I can secured so then I can put putty in it to harden it back up again. I'm using my new Craig jig as a weight that I got at Christmas and still haven't opened. This one had some splitting wood on the inside, so I'm, again, just doing the best thing I can with glue and with clamps. So I've never used Durham's water putty, so I'm going to try that for the first time. So I'm ready to do it on the top, but then I discover that I'm really not ready. I'm taking drawers out because I discover this super big hunk that's out. But here's the real problem. The top is still giving, so I can glue the ends down, but I put those screwdrivers strategically because there's a board underneath. It's hard to see, but I'm gonna see what I can do to glue onto that, because it doesn't matter if I putty it, it's gonna not stay if it's moving. So I'm using a syringe to try to squeeze some glue under there. If you've never used these, you can get them on Amazon, and you just put the glue in the cylinder, and then you put the tip on, and then you put the plunger down in. And now you know why you see nurses turn it upside down to put the plunger in. Because I put the plunger in and gravity took over and I lost some glue real quick. To prepare for the wood putty, I put tape underneath those splits so that when I put it in, it doesn't go clear through. So I even tried putting screws in underneath and it didn't work. So I put a screw in and then I pulled it back out, and now I'm using a large drill bit so that I can recess that head of the screw and then putty over it. And this is the only thing that helps. So I'm mixing up this wood putty, and at first I mix it a little bit loose because I need to get that into the crack. So the directions said you could mix it to the consistency that was desired. So I'm thinking kind of putting it a little bit thinner in the crack and then a little thicker whenever I'm going to putty over that. This stuff doesn't stink at all. So I was impressed. I've seen lots of my furniture flipping friends use it, and I never realized that it was available in the States. I thought it was an Australian product, but I realize now that it's been around a long time, according to my hardware store guy. So when people say the hardware store, lots of times they're referring to Lowe's or Home Depot. But I have an actual hardware store, an old-fashioned hardware store that I like to go to sometimes, and they're so helpful. The owner, Dave, he always helps me figure out the weird things that I'm trying to do all the time because I'm always trying to build weird stuff. And he always has what it takes. He takes the time to talk to me, and he likes kind of helping out with my wacky ideas. So it's really great to support local business people, and I love to see a small hardware store. Just love to look through the aisles, and it's just a great place for me. So I go all over this piece with this wood putty, filling all of those problem areas. So I keep going and going and going, and eventually I can't do anymore. I did a second coat, lots of sanding, and I thought it still looked really rough. This is a different consistency. The can said it was not necessarily suited for wood. It said more cement and stuff, which it has a really cementy texture. But it did say it was suitable for crafts, and, I know that a lot of people use it. So I decided I'm going to go with some texture on this piece. It's going to be a little, I did my best sanding, so I'm ready to start painting as soon as I get a little more sanding done and I feel like I've done my best. So I know this piece is going to bleed because it's an old piece and I've done all this stuff and there's been bare wood exposed. So I'm going to use Dixie Belle's Boss in gray, and I'm going to coat the entire piece. I'm leaving the drawers in because I'm going to be putting that pastoral scene on the front, that summer villa paint inlay from Iron Orchid Designs. I do the entire piece, and then I prep the paint inlays. I cut all the little borders off the sheets. so that I can match them up. I look at the layout and I decide where I'm going to put everything. So I'm holding them all up just to see how they fit. And I am strategically using my knees to help hold them in place because I don't want to tape them yet, or at all really. So I'm just kind of trying to see if everything's going to fit. So it ends up, I decide that I'm going to start in the middle and let it hang off the end, and that way I can get all of the panels on there. So this is just a dry fit. So I laid out my design on the top of the dresser, and I'm only going to paint a section at a time because I want this paint to stay wet. Now I have a heater that's kind of blowing on me, so I probably should be using a mister with this paint, but I'm trying to apply it kind of thick. You really want to be kind of generous with your paint and make sure that it's good and wet whenever you go to put the paint inlay in. I'm using Dixie Belle's Sawmill Gravy, and it's a chalk mineral paint. You want to use a chalky style paint and not something that has a built-in sealer. You can, but it's not recommended, and there's a whole different procedure of working with that. So if you use the chalk style paint and you follow the directions, then you'll have success. Now I recommend also make sure that you check the piece and make sure that you're putting the paint side down. You can feel which is the painty side, so it has a little texture on it. So I'm just lifting it up and wetting the paint a little bit more, adding a little more paint. So I'm just conforming that piece. Then as soon as you get it on there, you want to use a mister bottle, or you can just use a wet rag if you want, and just smooth down your panel. Now, this rag isn't wet, but I used a mister bottle. So I'm just using this to just kind of get it in all the little grooves and all that. I'm getting some wrinkles, and I'm okay with that. This piece is going to have texture, and I'm not worrying about it being super smooth. So that's what it looks like with all the paper on it. And like I said, I have some wrinkles, but I'm not real worried about it. Now, time for some fun, and we're going to remove them. So you want to make sure they're dry, and then you re-wet it. Again, you can use either the rag, or I like to use a mister bottle. I just feel like it really gets the paper wet so that I can pull it without tearing it. When the paper comes off, you want to lay it upside down and let it dry. So each sheet, you're going to want to make sure that you put it somewhere where it's going to dry nice and smooth, because you can reuse these over and over again, about 4 or 5 times. And each time you use it, it's going to fade a little bit. The image is coming off, but it's not coming off super dark. So it seems like the ends are darker than the middle. And I can sand this a little bit and get them more even, but I just keep going. And you know me, I never consider anything to be a problem or an accident unless it's really dire. I just keep going with it because I'll find a way to make it work, whether I just use that guideline and do some painting with it, or whether I actually try to put that inlay on there again in the areas that weren't so dark. So I just keep going, and then we're going to see what it looks like in the end. While I'm peeling, let me remind you that you can hit the join button now and join for only 99 cents to my channel membership, and you can help me decide some of my content for my Tuesday talk show. And I think we can have a lot of fun with that, because if you'd like to see something done, or you'd like to see it done differently, you've seen it done before, or something you tried and you want me to give it a whirl, then I think we can have a lot of fun with that. You'll get access to a Facebook group and some exclusive content occasionally. So where will I go from here? Tune in next week for the exciting conclusion. If you're not subscribed, you're going to want to make sure you do that so that you get notified. Make sure you hit the bell so that you won't miss part 2 or any other content. Thank you so much for watching today. If you like this video, how about giving it a thumbs up and also share it with your friends? If you haven't subscribed, you'll want to do that so you don't miss anything. Visit us at lavintagedecor.company, and on Instagram we're LaVintage Decor, and on Facebook we're LaVintage Decor Altoona. Stay well.